Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us in the world today. Welcome to today's webinar, Emerging Horizons, Uncovering Hidden Gems for Student Recruitment. My name is Karen Nascimento, and I'm the Associate Director for Events and Partnerships here at UnivAssist. If you're new to UnivAssist and this is your first interaction with us, welcome. We're really happy to have you here today. UnivAssist is an organization with many, many years of experience in international education, and we support higher education institutions and high school counselors throughout the world with unique programs and events like geared toward developing and implementing international engagement so that students can get the best guidance and also choose the right fit institution for their higher education career. So we are thrilled that so many universities are joining us today from all around the world, as I said, to discuss such an important topic and a very timely topic as well, which is how emerging market cities in hidden gem places are reshaping the landscape of international student recruitment. So in the next 45 minutes or so, we'll dive into insights from a panel of high school expert counselors, each representing a unique and up-and-coming region. And together, we're going to explore how students are thinking about studying abroad, how schools are supporting them, and the most effective ways that your institutions can engage with these students as well. Before we get started, though, I wanted to just say a quick note. We encourage you guys to participate actively today. So if you want to start sharing where you're joining us from in the chat, please do so. Let us know where you're coming from. Let us know which institution you're representing today. And we also will have some time at the end of the presentation of the webinar for live Q&A. And we will be posting some questions for you guys as well, for the audience, for the universities to reply throughout the event. So for the time being, just please let us know where you're coming from. So I see Washington, D.C., I see UK, I see Canada, Indiana, Indianapolis, Calvin University. I see many folks represented. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. From Miami, FIU, woohoo, just 1 hour down the road from me. Hello, everybody, welcome. It's really nice to have you here. Okay, so as I mentioned, if you guys have any questions throughout the presentation, just post it in the chat. I think we're going to get started now. As I say, when I'm on the road with my colleagues, shall we? I think we shall, right? Okay, so right now I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. And we have distinguished panelists here today, each of whom brings like invaluable experience from their respective regions. And I'm going to ask them to briefly introduce themselves and let us know where they're coming from. And let's start with Vandana, please.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good morning, wherever we are joining from. All of you, welcome to this panel. I am Vandana Murjani, and I head the Career and College Guidance Counseling Department at the Emerald Heights International School in Indore. We are CBSE, which is the national framework, yet a lot of internationalism prevails in our school ethos. Besides counseling, I also shoulder the responsibilities of being the SAT supervisor and also administer APs at my school. So happy to be here sharing stories while also learning from the expertise of the panels here. Thank you so much, KIC, for having me here. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. André, should take it?
Hello, everyone. I'm André Corrêa. I'm from Colégio Letras, Salvador, Brazil. I've been working as a counselor most recently for a year now, and it's been like a great work. mainly because I'm getting to know all of the universities and the struggles of being in a not so visited city. Yeah. So we started in this one. Well, I just would like to say thank you for having me here.
Thank you, André. And that's the scenario that we're trying to change today. Lucinda, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucinda Ochieng. I am from the Aga Khan Academy, Mombasa. I'm one of the university counselors at the academy from Mombasa, Kenya. My role, I particularly work with diploma students. I'm happy to have seen some familiar names attending this session, which is really great. And thank you if you have come to our school. Excited to see you here as well. And I'm excited to see how the conversations in this panel go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucinda. Thank you. So we have one more panelist, Laura. She had an emergency and she's trying her best to join us. So hopefully she will make it in the next few minutes. And if she does, we'll just go back to her real quick for her to introduce herself and we'll move on with the webinar. So thank you to the panelists for the lovely introductions. And now we're actually going to dive into our main discussion, okay? So one of the first questions that we have for the panelists today, it's not really a question, but it's for you guys to tell us a little bit more about your city, your region, your school, your community. Tell us something special about it or something that this audience might not know about your region. So shall we start with André, please?
So Salvador was the very first capital of Brazil. Yeah, and it's nowadays the third largest capital city in the country, the third most populated. And I think this is one of the points for you guys to visit us here. We are mostly a touristic city, so we have many people coming to Brazil when they think of the northern region of Brazil. They think of beaches, they think of coconut, enjoying paradise. They come to us thinking about it. Yeah, but we are much more than that, of course. Yeah.
Awesome. So who actually knew that Salvador was the first capital of Brazil? Some people still think that it's Rio, but it's not. It's Brasilia. I'm sure all of you know that.
Karen, if I may, there's
course.
something that's also interesting that's going to be brought about later in this discussion. That's a characteristic of our people here. We are warm people, and that makes a huge difference. Yeah, when we talk about getting in touch with the universities. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very true. Thank you. Thank you so much. Vandana, how about your region? Tell us a little bit.
I'm so proud of my city, Indore, because Indore is not only the cleanest city, but it's also the financial capital of my state. So this is located in the central part of India, and it is now a fastest developing tier 2 cities in MP. MP is the name of the state, Madhya Pradesh. Madhya itself means central part of the state of India. So this city, Indore, offers a blend of academic excellence, and it is now showing its economic growth and cultural diversity very, very hugely. Being the financial and commercial capital of the state, the city has become the hub of the industries and also the startups recently. So, which makes Indore an exciting and a dynamic place for students and people across small towns in this town to come and settle over here. So, apart from this, Indore is also known for its modern infrastructure, its affordability, and also the high standards of quality of life. Most popular fact about my town is cleanliness. It's been ranked as the cleanest city for almost 7 to 8 years in a row now. And apart from being, apart from finding and looking for hidden gems to recruit, I would say all the university delegates that another best reason to come to my town would be food. Yes, Indore is a foodie place, especially the very hygienic and street local food, which adds to the attraction to many. So yeah, looking forward to welcoming you all to Indore.
Well, I am looking forward to going for sure. Out of the cities here,
Absolutely. Most welcome. Yeah.
indoor is the only one that I don't know yet, but now I feel like I have to. So
You
thank
must.
you for that. Lucinda, please tell us about your city and your region, your community.
Okay, so we are located in Mombasa, Kenya, which is a coastal part of the country. So we are the tourist attraction region of the country. Nairobi is our capital city. Nairobi is becoming quite popular. Infrastructure is growing in our country, and as such, Nairobi is the face of infrastructure and everything that is great about our country. Mombasa is phenomenal. It's the second largest city. We are known specifically for our food. So the Swahili language specifically came about during trade that happened along the coast. I can't remember what time or era it was, but it came about because Arabs needed to come up with a language to trade or to just do their business consistently with natives along the coast of not just Kenya, but Tanzania as well. So that's how the language of Kiswahili started. So a lot of Swahili or Kiswahili, the language, is adapted from Arabic. The difference is you'll notice if you listen to someone speaking Kiswahili, we have a little more vowels in Kiswahili than there are in Arabic. But there are words, if you were to hear as a Kiswahili speaker in Arabic, you'd be able to pick. The other interesting about our region is that we have really beautiful beaches and really beautiful hotels straight from the north coast of Kenya all the way to the south coast. And you have to try the food because it's a fusion of a lot of cultures, especially Arabs and Indian culture as well. Because our country was built not just by Kenyans, but the Indian community have a huge impact in how our country came together or was able to grow. So that's the one thing you need to know about our city. And if you have any questions, you can always shoot me a message and I can tell you more.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've had the pleasure of going to Lucinda City before and experiencing one of the most beautiful sunrises I've ever seen in my life. That was just fantastic. So I can definitely attest to that, and also the food as well. So now I would like us to jump to the next question and talk a little bit about your students and your communities at your school. And how has your students' interest in study abroad changed over the past few years? What are they wanting to study, and how are they assessing the options that they have? How are they making these decisions? If we could have André, can you please lead us on this question?
Sure. Well, let's welcome Laura. Hey, Laura.
Laura's here?
Yeah,
Yes,
she's
we
here.
got here.
Yay.
Let's give her a moment. Yeah.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Laura. Hi, Laura. Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, everyone. I'm sorry that I'm late, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Laura has quite a story to tell, but she will only share with those who go to Curitiba. So
Yes, that's true. I'll
When
tell you
people
why I
come
was
to
late when
visit.
you get here. Yes.
Laura, can you just give us like a quick intro about you, where you're joining us from, your school, and just a few points about your city and why is it a hidden gem, please?
For sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Laura Neves. I'm from Colégios Maristas in Curitiba. I work at two Colégios Maristas in Curitiba. The Marista network, the Marist network, right, is a huge network around the world. But in Curitiba, we have great Marist schools. And Curitiba is a city filled with different cultures and people that came from all over the world in the last century. So if you walk around Curitiba, you will find influences from these many different cultures. And if you go to our schools, you will see that that's no different. People here in Curitiba They are very cultural attached, and they love exploring new cultures as well. We are one of the biggest, one of the greenest cities in Brazil. So we are well known for our sustainability and urban development. So that's definitely something that I see very strong in our schools. We see that our students have a very strong sense of sustainability and environmental causes. And actually, I am in Curitiba, Brazil. That's the country, yes. So our students are always connected to sustainable causes and environmental issues. And that's something that over the past years, Curitiba has been a reference regarding that. So I would definitely highlight these 2 points about Curitiba, the cultural interest that our population has, and the sustainability interest as well. And if you visit us in our schools, you will see that that's something that inspires us very much.
Absolutely. And Curitiba is one of my favorite cities in Brazil too. And if you just like with a quick Google search, you will see what she means about the green aspect, the green focus and all of it. So thank you so much, Laura, for joining us and for sharing your perspective. We are going to move forward talking a little bit more about specifics for each of the schools. Give me just a second. But I also wanted to hear from the audience, like if you guys can share in the chat, which emerging markets are under your institutional radar for the next 3 to 5 years? Which regions, which cities are you thinking about exploring, or are you at least trying to get into your strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years? If you could share with us, that would be great. And for our panelists, how has your students' interest in study abroad changed over the past few years? So where are they wanting to study? Like, are you seeing a difference in terms of destination? How are they assessing their options and making those decisions? And I'm going to ask André to lead us on this one, please.
Okay. Well, since the beginning of this international schools coming to the city, this movement started about 5 years ago or so. So we have this increased number of bilingual and international schools here. So I think it has kind of worked with the imagination of the people thinking about, well, if I already speak English at school, why not go to university and study English as well? So the interest has started increasing quite a lot after these schools came here. And it showed them that it's kind of a reality, not only a distant dream to go to university because they already speak English since an early age. It changed a lot because in the past, like I'd say in the past 10 years, like many people here didn't really speak English well. And nowadays you can see this difference, yeah, in education, and their interest is increasing a lot. What they want to study, well, we still have this major focus on US and Canada. Some people think of the UK, but I don't know if it's the influence of K-pop or so. We have had like a good number of students willing and wanting to go to Asia. Yeah. So it has increased a lot. Yeah. They've been looking for Asia quite a lot, mainly China and Korea.
Okay. It's good to understand like how it's shifting, right? Up until a few years ago, and I can attest to that because I worked for schools in Brazil too. The primary focus was US and Canada, as André said. Well, we've been seeing a lot of interest in other regions. In Asia is definitely one that has grown. So Laura, I want you to share your perspectives as well. So what are you seeing in your community?
Sure. So if I could add on to what André shared, I've experienced a lot of the same things that he brought, but also I think learning English is something, as André said, that the students already take it as, like accomplished. They've done that. They started doing that since early ages. So what I've been seeing with my students is what other languages am I going to learn? So when they get to high school, they're already proficient in English, and that's when they start learning a third language, that being Italian or German or Spanish. And then I also have a lot of students, because of the cultural background that I shared about Curitiba, there are a lot of students with dual citizenships now, that have European citizenships with Brazilian citizenships. And that combined to the language learning, I've noticed a big shift to students considering Europe more, I wouldn't say more, but not more than the US, but more compared to what they considered before. And something that I found from the universities that have visited us in the past year, something that I have found that really got their interest and made them, want to apply to a university, are those US universities that also have exchange programs to Europe, those summer exchange programs, or if they can do a semester abroad. This really interests them because a lot of them are culturally connected to European countries. And we've seen a big increase in European universities starting to offer undergrad courses 100% in English as well. So I think that plays a big factor in it. I would say that still US is top one regarding interest, but with that idea of not staying just in the US for 4 years. And I would also say that some students, I always tell them that you cannot be sure that you are going to, what are you going to do after those 4 years of college, right? But they do want to move to places that there are maybe more options for them to work afterwards, if they choose to stay, so I would say that those are the biggest trends right now, from what I've been with my students last year.
Good. So very very good things then adding an extra language and also opportunities to work after their studies. So we've seen a lot of those shifts too. Not just in Brazil, because as Laura and André are representing schools in Brazil, but in many of the other regions that we're visiting as well. With that, I also wanted to post to the questions to the panelists our next question, which is, give me just a second, which is, what are the biggest barriers for students in your region when it comes to studying abroad? And also, if you could share with us an example of a success story on how a student from your community has navigated the study abroad process and how the student is doing. So I want to post that question to Vandana first, if you could share an experience with us.
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much. So when we are talking about the barriers, there are some mini barriers like language, not from the survival point of view, but sometimes acing SATs or, writing impressive and sparkling college essays becomes a challenge, because I initially said that some students from nearby small towns have come and settled here. And about my school, we are a day-come residential school. So we have a lot of residential students who come to our school and who join us either in the freshman year or in the junior year, which is too late for developing the foundations of language. So those are the students who are very brainy, who have a lot of logical reasoning capabilities, but sometimes that becomes a little small barrier. Sometimes lack of awareness or openness towards the new age career trends. And major issue is also about the state that not all the schools have counseling departments. But Karen is talking about two key barriers. So the first key barrier is definitely the financial constraints. While there are many students who are academically very strong, capable of thriving internationally, the cost of attendance becomes a significant hurdle. in their journeys. Receiving substantial scholarships and financial aid becomes the crucial component for me as a counselor while taking these conversations with the parents. Sometimes parents even request, like, can't we manage some kind of loan grants from the college, from the US itself, because the taxes in India itself are taxing. So this is one big barrier that I see navigating the financial pathways. Second major barrier is the lack of information and proper guidance. Not at my school, but I'm talking on behalf of the region at large. So many students here do not have counselors at school who can simplify these complexities of the application procedures or the visa requirements and testing requirements in a very timely manner. Since I shoulder and wear the hat of the SAT supervisor, I see a lot of students who come to my school to take and write the SATs. When I ask them which grades are you, they say we are in senior grades. And senior grades, when you are writing SATs now, when will you start other preparation? And they are so clueless at that moment that I understand that these people have no fault. It's just the lack of the awareness with them. But when you want to know about the success story of one of my students, I would proudly like to share the story of one of my students, Sakshi, who overcame these barriers very smartly. So she was a brilliant STEM scholar, 97 percentile GPA throughout 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. She had several positions in ITs. IT means the information technology, FES. She was pro at languages, Java Plus. She even mentored so many juniors on Java Plus. She was a perfect scorer in this subject also. She also had versatile personality. She was so much into dancing, writing, psychology, leadership, and much. Born and brought up in a very traditional family, this girl was facing a problem. The problem of the traditional thinking of the family. The family was very much into, like, why abroad? Why liberal arts? How will the funding happen? Why not India? And especially the prestigious public universities that are highly, highly competitive. But Sakshi's ambition was very different. She came to me, she poured out her heart with me, and she said, like, I still want a support and I don't want to compromise on my next 4 years of education. And that's where the journey started. She researched well, she followed each and everything in timely manner. She aced her SATs and everything, the college essays. She worked literally very hard. She also got offers from some of the universities. But after that, also the challenge was not resolved with the parents and the family. The challenge was to convince the family, number one, why should she be attending a liberal arts college, though she is a STEM girl? And second was, how will the funding happen? So with this started the series of meetings with the parents, especially on the two fronts. Why a small college or a liberal arts college versus a big Indian university, plus the management of the financial aspects. So these conversations literally involved deep discussions on the skills that the students gain in the liberal arts colleges, how they are known for their multidisciplinary concepts, interdisciplinary concepts, hands-on concepts, developing soft skills, critical skills, much necessary in the workforce rather than just the degrees. We also decoded the ranking game with data and stories of success from very reliable sources. So with this, the parents agreed to send. But the second challenge was, how do we manage the funding part? So since she had offers from various kinds of institutions, there was one institution that was a liberal arts college, and that had offered her full scholarship on tuition. So this was all because she took the guidance, we supported her. She also did a lot of hard work. She applied for all that was in her bounds. And through this, she was able to procure full tuition right through an external agency. So with this, her efforts came to fruition. Family agreed. This was the time when the family was all, in the beginning, the family was like, why US? Why she should be going abroad? What will she do there that she can't do here? But this is again the time when her younger sibling, is on the similar journey, and the same parent says, what will the child do here? Let him go out. Today, this girl Sakshi, she has made us proud, and she's working in such a good company, in the insurance company known as Blue Cross Blue Shield Insurance Company, and she literally feels so proud, and we all feel so proud of her. So I think overcoming barriers, breaking the stigmas of brands and rankings, all of these things are taking shape, emerging, but we still want to know more about it. Like, we need more people to debunk these myths. So that's from my side.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing such a wonderful story. I think that these kinds of stories are the stories that keep us going in this industry and keep us doing what we're doing. Lucinda, I want to open it to you for you to share your perspectives with us about the barriers that your students are facing. And if you could, I think we have a request for you to quickly add in there the shifts that you're seeing on your school as well, for where students' interests and a success story. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. So one of the biggest barriers for our students is cost. And because we have a variety of students, right? So we run a program known as a talent identification program. And the students basically go through a very rigorous assessment process to be considered for a full scholarship at the academy. So they are selected from their local primary school. So in Kenya, for example, our admissions team works with local primary schools. They have been able to identify schools that they visit annually, and they select, I think, a maximum of 4 students to join us into the IB program and into our residential program from grade 6 all the way until their IB diploma until grade 12. So they are fully catered for, from housing, accommodation to meals, any cost that pertains to extracurricular activities, they are completely supported. In addition to our local students, we are also one of the academies that take in students from, we also have an international TID program, and we accept students from Tajikistan. Our campus in Maputo has students from Syria and Iran in the program, and our campus in Hyderabad, I think, has students from Afghanistan. So cost is essentially an issue, because when they do get towards their senior year of the IB diploma program, the expectation is that they will have gained admission into a university that will offer them something close to a full ride scholarship. If it's not a full, even if it's a full scholarship, we figure out a way to find out how to cover whatever the difference might be, whether it's a flight ticket, whether it's a stipend or money they should have in their pocket before they travel, or we also just work with the families to see what they're able to do. But that's usually the biggest challenge for our students. In addition to that, we also have, our school offers financial aid to families who sometimes can cover partial, 40%, 50%, 60%. So you find often when we are looking at higher education options, students are leaning towards, or families are leading towards universities where, the cost, even if the cost is to a certain extent, they'll be able to manage or cover the difference. So we never start any conversations with our parents or our students until we've had that cost element, a discussion on the cost element, because scholarships, I think, is a word that has been thrown around, and there are people who've taken advantage of families. We've had stories of I don't know, families even going to camp out of embassies saying they were conned or they were duped out of an agent or somebody just trying to tell them that there were scholarships, and parents did too much and that their child wasn't able to travel abroad to study. So cost is one of those, I would say, number one is the biggest factor for our student. However, we do have fee-paying students as well, but it really, I can say for my colleague and I, we put in a lot of effort trying to find as many opportunities, higher education opportunities from institutions that can cover a significant amount of money, for example. And so we continuously just consistently keep bringing it up with our students just to make sure, even as they're going through the university application process, or when we do start, that their parents have pre-approved their university shortlists and they're moving ahead to put in time and energy or working towards applying to universities where, should they gain admission, it is ideally a realistic option for them to pursue. A success story. So my success story is an interesting. So we have one of our TID student, Kenyan students, two of them. One graduated in 2023 and chose to take a gap year, and the other one graduated last year in May. And so I have this one student so the one who graduated in 2023 wasn't able to gain admission into any university. So our school sets up an internship program for students for TID students or our high financial aid students who are not able to gain admission to universities immediately. So that internship program runs for a year and they're able to get a stipend. So I have this student who is on a gap year, and then I have this student who is graduating in May of 2024 and has applied to, I think he's even broke the record. He applied to 32 universities
32?
in pursuit of a full ride scholarship. Yeah, he was a very ambitious young man. He didn't have, his grades were, I want to say, slightly above the world average for that year, which was around, I think the world average was at 30 last year. And he had around, I think, a 34 IB by the time he was graduating. And the other student who is also part of the program graduated the previous year with, I think, 35 or 36 IB points. So they had decent IB points. But if you look at universities that are, offering merit scholarships or sometimes even need-based scholarships, academically, their expectations are very high. But, you have these kids who are tenacious. They come from extremely humble backgrounds, and they were just amazing kids, humble and down to earth. So an opportunity comes by. Luckily, I think at some point in January last year, I had the opportunity to visit India, which was amazing. I enjoyed it. I was there for a week and I had a wonderful time with a group of 9 counselors who are college counselors in different schools in Africa. And immediately, I think we left that university, some of the conversations we had, because they had never recruited in Africa, but they were looking to start recruiting in Africa. One of the things we mentioned is that we have incredible students, but sometimes we're unable to place them because funding is a real issue. So later, I think 2 or 3 months after the visit, they wrote to us and they mentioned that gladly they're also part of, I think, IC3, and they said they had full scholarship opportunities for students, and they were accepting nominations, and I pushed these two students to apply. And like any other applications, students submit, it's almost like throwing like something into the ether and just hoping somebody will catch it. And they ended up getting they both got the same scholarship into a liberal arts university in India.
That's wonderful.
And it was the most amazing. Honestly, I think we were humbled. But also it wasn't the end, because the university, I think part of our role as counselors, when you're looking at or digging through scholarships, especially for students who come from, we call ourselves third world countries, but, countries whereby, we're trying to figure out how to support a child who is leaving home, has never left home, is probably going to take a taxi or hop into a plane for the first time, and they've never traveled on their own internationally. So we needed to cover a lot of groundwork with the university, and as much as the university covered a ton of the cost, their flight was not included, and there's so many other things that weren't included. So it was not only just, to me, it's a success story, but it was a genuine learning experience for myself, because there's moments of considerations, I think, when we're having conversations with universities as counselors, that it's important to consider the students that our students that we send off to transition into higher education, to be taken as people and to be treated as people. So when we were vetting the scholarship and having a back and forth with the universities, we really had to affirm ourselves with the universities and tell them, you know, we are sending somebody else's child. We need to be able to ensure that when these two young men come back home, that their families will be able to recognize them, recognize their faces, and see them as, you know, full-on adults who went to gain an education and have come back to see how to support their families, because that's what it is in the African culture. There's no retirement fund half the time. So the kids are the retirement fund. They're the ones who are taking care of their families and their parents. So to be honest, the feedback we've gotten from universities, from the university they got into, is just, it's consistently just positive. They have really just, they're having a blast, and the admissions, I don't know, it's just, it's always positive feedback consistently. And I'm grateful, to be honest. That's my success story, is being able to place a student into an institution whereby they will be taken care of and they'll be given the same level of respect and support as we did as an institution.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And one of the things that struck with me, that stuck in my head, is the fact that you went to visit the universities in India and they weren't even thinking about recruiting students from Africa. And now they have these two amazing students as part of their cohort. So I think that in every region, we're going to have different challenges in you know, whether it's language or financial constraints or the traditional thinking from parents, or many barriers, right? Many challenges their students are facing. But these stories, they come to show us that when counselors, when students, when families, when universities are all working together, it is possible, right? So again, another incentive for us to keep going, keep doing what we're doing. I obviously underestimated the amount of time that we would require for this session, because I see that we're like less than 5 minutes away from the time that we promised we would end, and we were only able to get to 3 questions. So I'm going to change things slightly with your help, and I'm going to turn a couple of questions into a lightning round, because I want the universities to be able to ask their questions as well. So for universities, actually, we have a poll for you guys. And I'm going to ask my team to assist me in posting the poll for the universities, for the audience, which is, when we're talking about challenges, we're listening from counselors, the challenges on the student sides, right? So for the universities, we want to know, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing when recruiting international students from less explored cities and regions? So we have a poll for you, and if you could please take a minute to answer that, we'll quickly review later. So yes, what's the biggest challenge you face when recruiting international students from less explored cities or regions? And we have the questions: financial budget constraints, cultural differences, lack of information, awareness, business visa issues, competition, and others. So majority, I can see that are clicking on financial and budget constraints as the main challenge, which I guess it's a popular common theme, right, for everybody. So both for students and also for universities, like the budget, the financial constraints, and how can we work around it. Thank you guys. Okay. Now for the counselors, I wanted to ask you if you have an idea of how much students are paying for college in your city. Like if you have an idea, and when we're talking about this, I'm asking, give me just a second. I'm asking for the, like, for the total cost. So the total cost, including tuition, including cost of living, books, health insurance. If you have a quick idea of how much students are spending in your cities or in your country to study, what would it be?
I think my answer is going to be similar to André's, because in Brazil we have a very strong culture of students staying in their hometown to go to college, especially if we're talking about capital cities like Curitiba. So most students who stay in Brazil, they don't have to pay for living costs, which is one of the biggest costs, right? So most of my students who stay in Brazil, they keep living at home with their parents. So that would reduce the cost significantly. But let's say if I have a student who moved to São Paulo to go to school in São Paulo, we also have a lot of students who go to federal universities in Brazil. And I don't know if that's common knowledge abroad, but federal universities in Brazil are free of cost. So the majority of our students who stay in Brazil, they also do not pay for college. So that cost is pretty low compared to if they had to study abroad. So I would say, if you want me to give you a number, it's not the most common case of a student who is moving to another city to study in a private institution. Okay, so if we're talking about a student paying housing, tuition, all that costs involved, I would say around 10,000 reais a month, which would convert to a little less than $2,000 a month.
With the exchange rate today. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Laura. Vandana, do you have an idea quickly of how much students would be dedicating monthly?
So it's a very heterogeneous group in my school and even in my city. So the students who want to remain in the city would be around 10 to 15%, not many. And these are the students who again go to very, very reasonable local universities in Indore, hardly pay 2 to 3 lakhs INR, because again, housing cost is not involved. But again, there is another group of students who want to remain in country, but they want to move out of the town and join some really popular destinations. That would cost around maximum 15 lakhs per year. But when it comes to going abroad, it becomes at least 2 times the cost, at least 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, even if they get scholarship. So this is what is the dynamic here. Very few parents, around 10% of the population in the town, are wealthy enough to pay the whole amount and send them to the US or any other country apart from India.
Okay. Lucinda, how about you? Do you have an idea of costs? Just a general idea of how much students would be paying to attend a local institution in Kenya?
Yeah, so in Kenya, it varies. So because we have private universities and we do have public universities as well. The cost will range anywhere from, okay, let me start by putting it this way. Students who attend national curriculum schools in Kenya are eligible to apply for government funding into a public or private higher education institution. And that offsets quite a bit of monies. I think for undergraduate students, particularly enrolled in government institution, the government can cover up to 100%, but it's a loan. So once you gain employment, only once and you've gained employment is when the government will deduct that money. And it's honestly very little. And very little, I mean, I'd say roughly like $10 to $20 a month. If you're earning a salary per month, if you're getting a salary or an income of around 20,000 shillings, 20,000 shillings would be like $190 or $20 a month. That's just as a starting salary of somebody who's fresh from the university and is looking for to gain some experience. Now, the private colleges or private universities, the range will be similar to other private universities in Africa. So that will be anywhere from, let's see, maybe $12,000 a year. Anywhere between 500 to 12. Am I doing my math right? $5,000 to $12,000 a year. $12,000 would be the max per year. That would be the cost of like private university or a student who is going to pursue higher education in another African country.
Yeah.
They would still be an international student if they're going to another African country, but that would be the rough estimate or
Okay.
range. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this should give us like an idea of how different it is for each of these regions and what a student is looking at. And this should also give you a perspective for when you're talking to these students of what they're looking at their current region, right? So I want to be mindful of the time, like we're already at 5 minutes over the time. So from the counselors, since we promised the universities that we would give them some effective ways that universities could engage with your communities, I want to ask you guys to think for a minute about two tips that you would give to these university representatives of meaningful ways and effective ways that that they can reach out to your students, whether in person or virtually. So just two quick tips from you. And from the universities, if you have questions, please post them in the chat now, and we're going to take just one or two. So very quickly, guys, like no more than 30 seconds. What would be like the two tips that you would have for universities to engage with your students in meaningful ways, whether in person or online? André, shall we start with you?
Sure. Well, I think it's kind of a two-way street in this case, you know. We are like the hidden gems, but also since we have this culture of putting the US and Canada and the UK on the spotlight, and there are some major universities that people don't need to be, introduced to, like Harvard, UPenn. They already know these universities are out there. The point is they need to know there are other options. So I think you need to be seen to be remembered. Yeah, that's I think is the main point, either virtually or physically. I think in my case, as I said at the beginning, we are warm people. So physically is more important. Yeah. We prefer human contact, human touch. So that's what I say. You need to be seen to be remembered. So you have to be here in a way. You have to reach us somewhere, somehow. Just have webinars, workshops online, or come here, visit us. That's what we have to do.
Great. Thank you, André. How about you, Vandana? One, two quick tips max.
So when it comes to attracting my students are really passionate about learning from universities and the professors. So any professor visiting us and conducting a workshop works the best. But if that's not the option, definitely online session with a professor or any competition or any writing program also is something that my students are very fond of. So yeah, looking forward to that as well.
Awesome. So far you have to be seen. You
Yeah.
can engage with webinars, with professors, students enjoy learning. Lucinda, what do you say to these universities?
I'm going to say, when you come to Kenya, don't stop at Nairobi. Please, a flight from Nairobi to Mombasa is a 45-minute flight, and you're in Mombasa. You can do your presentation within the day and go back to Nairobi if you have to. But what I want to say is I just want to build on Andre's message on in-person meetings are really important with our students. And the one thing I want to just say is our students want to hear from you and learn about your institution, information that they won't find in your website. They want to be able to get to learn about what you guys are about away from all the information, the brochures and the flyers and the prospectuses that you will offer, because when they get into the website to dig through the programs, they'll get the information they need. But tell them something that they can't find within any promo material that you're coming with. So, and just bring your energy and come with some things that will allow you to. I remember most of my students will apply to universities that were memorable and made them feel like, you know what, I think this is somewhere I want to go. I know it's a lot of work sometimes because, our personalities are different and we have our different techniques and presentation styles, but it really helps if you can work with your faculties and just think of out-of-the-box ideas on how you can create really meaningful and memorable presentations and lasting impressions. And every single year, the students will be eager to just hear from you and see whether you're making a trip to visit our schools.
In other words, show how unique you are, like set yourself apart from the other ones. Okay, Laura, one more.
So I want to highlight what Vandana said, competitions, workshops, virtual classes online, or visiting professors. Definitely, if they can have a little bit of a learning experience from your institution, that's definitely something my students would love. And if I can add just one more, virtual university tours, because sometimes our students don't have the budget to travel to the country to get to know the university and the campus. So virtual online tours.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. So I actually see that many of the questions that were posted in the chat, you guys were very proactive and you took it away and you answered during the session. So I just want to open up to see if any university has just one more question that they want to post in the chat. I know we're way past our time, and I thank you guys for sticking with us. Okay. You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so we are going to wrap up then for the sake of time. I want to thank you all for being here today. I want to thank our panelists for the great answers, the great responses, and for just taking the time to come and share your expertise with us and with the university representatives. It was great to hear from both sides. As we wrap up, I also would like to invite everyone to reach out to the UnivAssist outreach team if you'd like to just dive deeper into this conversation and discuss potential collaboration in these emerging markets, emerging cities. Whether in person or through the Webby Fairs. UnivAssist is bringing back the Webby Fairs this year, and all of these schools are already invited. And our team can share more information with the universities about the upcoming Webby Fairs. And once again, I just want to thank you all for the wonderful support that you've shown us. I want to thank our panelists once again. And we hope that this session has given you some valuable insights and actionable takeaways, ideas to help you diversify your international student recruitment strategies and to help you stay in touch with these schools and their students. And I want to just wish everyone a great day, great evening, and we look forward to continuing the conversation and talking to these counselors again soon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Karan. Thank you, everyone. Learned a lot today. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you, Karen.